Good afternoon, Tony Abatini from Frozen Ropes University in Chester, New York. College bound. Let's talk about your 7 or 9-year-old getting ready to go to college. Kidding. Rule number 1, can we not stress children out talking about college and college tuition payments when they're that young? Let the children enjoy junior high school and the prom and the beginning of high school. Yes, it's important to be proactive, but sending messages by the time they're in 7th or 8th grade that mommy or daddy might not be able to afford school in college, I think becomes counterproductive. So I think discussions like that do make sense, but keep it out of the ears of the children. I think that's really the most important piece of it. Be realistic. I think one of the issues we've seen over the last few years is I want my son or daughter to go play at the Division I level. And understand the following: as the father of 2 Division I players, they are the half of 1%. The reality is 90% of the children that come in and play here and train here are going to play possibly junior college, Division I, Division II, Division III. So instead of filling them with high expectations, and yes, we want all of our children to dream and to dream big, but at some point reality sets in. Too many parents are spending way too much money touring the universe to these exposure camps and going to these events where programs from the SEC or the ACC, big Power 5 programs are there, and it's just not a good match for your son or daughter. It will always be the best way to introduce your son or daughter to a college program is to go to a college camp on their campus. Your daughter wants to go to Providence or Mississippi State or St. John's one day. Find out in the summer or in the fall when camps are going to be there. I think that's important. People ask all the time about recruiting services. We are not big fans of recruiting services. In the day and age of internet, emails, and student athletes directly reaching out to colleges, there's no need to pay all this money to shotgun your resume or your child's resume across the country. Get a really good skills video. You can do it on your own, or you can come here and we can show you how to do it. Write out a introductory email that you'd be sending out to the particular school and introduce your son or daughter that way. Find people with credibility to call on your son or daughter's behalf. High school coaches are great, but they're also very busy, and many of them just have never seen college baseball or softball at different levels. You want to get them involved, but understand the following: stats mean nothing. Your son or daughter's game changer statistics mean nothing. They will be evaluated by the eye test, as in what they look like their junior and senior year. And yes, there are the exceptions of players that in 9th or 10th grade are getting verbally committed. You'll see that sometimes with athletes around the country. Those are the half of 1%ers. If your son or daughter is that good, you don't need to really do anything except receive phone calls. They need to train, they need to play, they need to go to these big events where only the half of 1% actually are going to be seen. But other than that, the rest of us, the rest of the families, academics first. I know you've heard that before. The guidance counselors are telling you that also. Grades matter, right? Your grades and your transcripts in high school will be a big factor in your ability to get dollars and get into schools. When it's even, skill levels are easier or the same, and you've got better SAT scores, ACT scores, or transcripts are better, this player is going to get into the program and probably qualify for academic aid. My son or daughter got a full scholarship. When people say that to you, they're full of poops. There are no such things as a full scholarship in baseball and softball. It sounds good at a dinner party, it looks good on social media, but the reality is with the maximum of 12 scholarships or 11.7 in baseball, you are not getting a full scholarship. What the parents probably mean is that they got a full tuition scholarship or they got a full book scholarship. But this whole thing, it's going to cost my son or daughter nothing to play 99% of the time, unless they're factoring in financial aid, is not happening. Be very wary of parents that tell you that they got a full boat or they're getting all this dollars to go in. It's really none of their business. People that brag like that typically are the ones that are embellishing the stories. But be prepared to spend some money for your son or daughter to go to school. We all have to go through it. There's student loans, there's financial aid, there's academic aids. But the reality is that the sooner you start savings to the extent that you can, that's going to be extremely important also. Junior college. We say that sometimes to parents that we're helping, and it's no, we can't send our son or daughter to junior college, particularly in New York where our SUNY systems are very good. Going to Orange County Community College, Rockland, or Westchester Community College for a year or two to get your required mandatory classes and then move on from there, makes more sense from a dollar standpoint. And here's the reality also. Many of the players that we counsel here don't know what they want to study. And we tell them it's okay. It's okay at 17 or 18 years old that you don't know what you want to be when you grow up. Think about as parents how many times we've changed careers or we've decided to do something else. It's okay to go in as an undecided major. And as we suggest, go study English, math and sciences, right? Some of those curriculums are going to better prepare students once they decide what they want to do and eventually have to get a job. I think it's important that realism, and I know we've said that before, your son or daughter might not know where he or she wants to go even going into their junior year. And you need to take the pressure and expectations off of her. Yes, you want them to go to college. And the reality is some of them might, by this senior year, say, I don't want to play college baseball or softball. And be careful what you ask for, because at the Division I level in particular, it is a full-time job. It is a full-time job with getting up earlier, strength and conditioning, mandatory study hall, planes, trains, and automobiles to get to different games or whatnot. Be prepared for that. And if your son or daughter isn't that motivated or disciplined to do that, the Division I level is certainly not for him or for her. I think the other issue sometimes, and you see the transfer in the portal so active now in NCAA, is does your son or daughter want to play? We see every year, and we make the prediction, she's going to this school and she'll never play. Or we see that somebody verbally committed to a school where their skill set is probably not going to play out. That program saw him or her at a showcase, saw him in batting practice, saw lightning in the bottle, as we call it, and then the reality is once it's time to go to school there, they might have the skill, might not have the skill set to play. So you've got to ask your son or daughter, how important is it to play their freshman year, knowing at the higher levels they might sit for 2 years, for 3 years. If they wanted to play immediately, Division II, Division III, and even junior college might make sense. So I think it's important as a parent to gauge that interest. Do you want to play immediately, or do you just want a fancy logo on your shirt that says you went to one of these big football programs? I think that's crucial. Bottom line is, most players are not making a living playing baseball and softball. And yes, in baseball, you have the half of 1% that get drafted and have an opportunity to play and make a living doing this. And at the softball level, professional softball is not to the point where they can't look for another job. They've got to work literally the rest of the year in order for them to be able to play for 3 months in the summertime, whether it's Athlete Unlimited or some of these other leagues. So this is about, I need to and want to get an education and better prepare myself to one day go get employment at some point. You can see the colleges behind me. This is always a great shot. When we do counseling with some of our athletes, we bring them into this room upstairs. This is a college listing behind me that has every college athletic program in the country. And the message is very simple. There's a college program, baseball program, or softball program for everyone. And it starts with understanding what you're looking to get out of it. It starts with skills. And I think we're asked all the time, well, when do you know if my son or daughter can play at the Division I level? Well, there's also Division I, and then there's also Division I, right? The high-level Division I's, what they call the Power 5 programs, are incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging, and the best of the best get there. And that's not to say that players from the Hudson Valley can't play at the Power 5 Division I programs, but you'll know probably by 9th or 10th grade When your son or daughter is the best player, not only on the team, but in the tournaments that he or she might be going to, that's when you know. And at that point, recruiting becomes very easy for you because you're going to have so many schools being attracted to their skill set. Then the reality for 99% of the other athletes that are here that are, again, you need to play travel ball. We understand that high school ball isn't enough only because colleges are not out and you need more innings and more pitches and more at-bats and whatnot. But the mistake that so many players are making is that they are spending way too much money on programs, parading around the country at schools that probably are not even in the academic or athletic range of their son or daughter. And then they wind up being disappointed and having a cost issue of thousands upon thousands of dollars that they could have spent on an SAT tutor or saved it for freshman year tuition bill. So I think it's a balancing act. Yes, you want to encourage. Travel ball should be played. Yet the reality is, be realistic. If your son or daughter, and whether it's coming in here or getting an evaluation from a college coach, or we had MLB Scout Day the other day when 5 major league organizations were telling the parents about, by the time your son is in 10th grade or so, these are the metrics. Everything is data driven now in Major League Baseball and even college athletics. There's certain benchmarks that if your son is a catcher, they need to be throwing a pop time of X. Their exit velocity off a tee, off of batting practice, right? Radar gun readings off of a crow hop and off a stationary, right? What is fast? The 60-yard dash is still the litmus test for running. What is that speed? So if your son isn't in those parameters and to expect that they're either going to get drafted out of high school or play Division I, you got to start looking at those numbers. There's no secrets anymore as to what college programs are looking for. And I think typically sophomore, junior year, you are what you are. Yes, you'll gain some velocity, you'll gain some weight, but at that point, if you're going to be the half of 1%, it's going to be showing up. And at that point, you need to get on the national stage, go to the Big Perfect Game events, go to the area code games, start talking to Major League Baseball scouts that possibly can get you on some of these premier national travel team programs. That makes sense. For the rest of us, for the rest of the families, just keep getting better. Understand that grades matter. I think it's important for the athlete to take the initiative. We see too many moms and dads doing all the work, writing out the emails, calling schools. There's no reason why by the time they're a junior year, they should be able to, what we call, target their 7 to 9 schools. Why 7 to 9? Maybe it's 8 to 12, maybe it's 7, but depending upon what they want to study, depending upon how far they want to go from the home nest, that's when they can start looking at schools. And the nice thing about the internet and social media, you can get a campus tour in the privacy of your own living room. You can start looking and going online and looking at the athletic program and the university to see what exactly are the SAT scores and admissions requirements. If you see no one from your state on that softball or baseball roster, that should be a red flag that says, I don't think they're recruiting anybody out of the New York area to go to XYZ school. So all this work can be done by the athlete and with mom and dad certainly helping. And so by the time the end of your junior year comes, right, for most of us, you can start applying to schools, putting your skills video together, making that introductory email to the college coaches, going on Twitter, field level, Instagram, and being somewhat proactive with, hey, look at me. That's much better than running around the country and just looking for someone that says, do you want to play here? Right? We typically call it the shotgun or targeted approach. The targeted approach makes much more sense. It's less expensive, and it's you, the family, with the student athlete leading the way, targeting these 7 to 9 schools based on the criteria that we talked about. And it is stressful, it is time consuming, but I think done with a sense of realism. And it's always great to see athletes that have great grades. It's always great to work with families that have realism, that realize that they have a son who's throwing 78 miles an hour as a right-handed pitcher, is not going to be playing in these major Division I programs. So now it's about figuring out, my son might want to be an accountant one day, or possibly engineering or marine biology, and us helping them target the schools, helping them prepare the skills video, and making some introductions. And yes, it does help when you have someone or a group that has credibility talking to college programs. We've been doing this for 25 years now. People take our call when it's coming out of Chester, New York, and whether it's myself or Mike Bertotti or Kyle Eskelsen, Michaela Abatini, they know that we're not going to oversell or try to bring someone onto their campus where they have no chance of playing. So it's important for you to have those references that make sense. Get your high school coaches involved too, right? They want to help, but by themselves, they might not be enough for the college coach to get enough input on you. But skills matter, academics matter, starting early, as I said before, but my caveat with starting early, your son's 9 years old, your son's 12 years old, right? Let the children play. Let them enjoy the game, right? That's going to be enough pressure on them as they're taking the SATs and getting into their junior, senior year. But this, what I think is nonsense about these travel teams at 11, 12, and 13 that are just going out and saying, here's my child, right? We're going to go to these big events. You do need to play. Competition is important. But stop making the mistake that we see so many other families do. You're chasing something that your son or daughter might not either be ready for or doesn't have the skill set for. And again, if your son or daughter's good, they will find you. And the reality is 90% plus of the students from the Hudson Valley and probably the state of New York are going to find a comfort level, and their schools are going to be at the Division II or the Division III level or junior college. And even at the Division I level, right? Go to college camps or go to these camps where you know there's going to be 7 to 8 schools that you've targeted that you believe your son or daughter could play for. That's well worth the money instead of running around at these big exposure events that most of the time parents leave either disappointed, or going to these tournaments where you're told that 50 colleges are there, when in fact there's 10 of them. And in fact, those 10 schools that are there have already targeted or have commitments from those 10, and your son or daughter gets very frustrated because nobody was on the back field seeing these things going on. So it's important. Get good information. Keep the noise about colleges away from their ears when they're that young. Be realistic about where your son or daughter can play from a skill set standpoint, and target schools. It should be, this is where I want to go, compared to who wants me as I'm running around the country. We look forward to seeing some of you at our next College Bound Info Night. I believe in January we'll have 2 college programs, 2 college coaches that are here that'll be giving the message from their perspective on the most effective way and the less stressful way to make the College Bound selection bearable and productive. Thank you.